I think we have all learned during this time of face masks just how much we really rely on seeing a person speak to fully hear what they're saying. So imagine the challenge for people with any degree of hearing loss. To learn some ways around the problem, we're going to check in again with the team at Hearing Health Solutions. And Carolyn Gelati, who is an audiologist, here to talk about masks and hearing. So welcome to Daytime.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I want to first off get some numbers, Carolyn. How much of our population suffers from some sort of hearing loss?
So what we see every day is overall what we find is actually hearing loss is the third highest problem that patients deal with on a regular basis. So kind of behind heart disease and other things like that, hearing loss is actually very common. But what we do know is that about 70% of the population over 70 years old has some type or degree of hearing loss. So it is very, very common.
And so what did many of your patients realize after, everybody was under this mask mandate?
Yeah, so I think what we're finding and what we're seeing a lot is that patients who maybe have had some mild degree of hearing loss that maybe could get by, they are coming in more often saying, I just can't understand people. It's harder for me to get the whole message when I'm having a conversation with someone. So it's not that they just can't hear at all. It's just really the understanding portion for a lot of patients once they added a mask or the social distancing or some type of barrier, that has caused a lot of patients to just not fully get the message from when they're trying to communicate with other people.
Okay, so knowing all these things kind of add to that, right? Add to these challenges. What can someone with hearing loss do? Are there, simple things they can try?
Yeah, so there are a lot of simple things that I think in general, even for patients with normal hearing or patients with hearing loss, there are things that we could do communication-wise just easily throughout the day to be able to more easily communicate with others. So one of the big things we talk to patients about all the time is make sure you're facing someone else. While with a mask, we kind of lose those facial expressions and other things like that kind of help put the pieces of the puzzle together. It's still important to direct the sound to the person that you're speaking to. So making sure you're facing someone is key. Simple things like getting a person's attention first. So whether that's tapping them on the shoulder, saying their name, our brain is hardwired to recognize when someone is calling our name because that's what we're used to hearing. But if someone just starts talking and the brain doesn't recognize 3/4 of the way until they're talking to them, of course a patient's going to be like, well, wait, are you saying something to me? Or someone is going to say, kind of question like, oh, were you talking to me? Especially if they are focused on something else. Just rephrasing. I think a lot of times people have a tendency to repeat what they said rather than take a step back and say, okay, they didn't understand what I said when I said it A, B, and C, but maybe if I rephrase how I worded that, then someone will kind of get the picture a little bit more clearly. And, there are kinds of other things as far as on the patient end of things, making sure if you are not understanding, advocate for yourself. Go into a situation and say, listen, I'm having an issue with this. This is something that I need to make sure, you kind of get my attention first. You are facing me when you're talking to me. As a person with hearing loss or without hearing loss, if you are not understanding what somebody is saying, make sure you advocate and say, hey, I need you to repeat that, or hey, I need that to be a little bit more clear. And also people who do talk to others, we have a tendency to maybe speak up and speak louder or speak much more slowly. While it's good to slow down for a lot of people, over enunciating or over exaggerating is not necessarily the way to do that to help things come through more clearly for patients. So making sure, yes, slow your pace down, but don't necessarily over exaggerate the words that are being said.
So those are all great tips, all things that we all can kind of incorporate into our daily lives. I know there are also some technology things, some speech detection apps that you can download. So there's lots of solutions. I imagine, though, if people are concerned, coming in and seeing an audiologist, a great first step to get started.
That would be a perfect first step. We are seeing a lot more patients, younger in age, anywhere, really my age from mid-30s all the way up to kind of that, 65, 70, who are working longer. They are recognizing that these are more challenging situations that they have to be able to hear in. So yes, if you have a concern, schedule an appointment with an audiologist, get your hearing checked. Even if everything is okay, those apps, there may be other assistive listening devices that we can assist with to give patients a way to be able to communicate a lot easier.
All right, Carolyn Giotti with Hearing Health Solutions. There are 6 locations around, so you can find one near you at their website. Thank you so much for bringing all that information to us today.
Of course, thanks for having me.